Hello, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Jackblade, and today we are playing Satisfactory, and we're updating one of our old videos, the one that blew my channel up, 10 plus blueprint sets that you need in your world. Let's get into it. Preemptively, there's a few things I want to talk about. These are questions that often came up in the old video, and I wanted to bring them up right now. We now have 3 levels of blueprint designers, and they cost differently. So the Mark 1 has a 4x4x8 foundation space. The next one has a different cost. You can see it uses heavy modular frames, computers, rubber, and concrete instead. And it has a 5x5x10. And it doesn't look like much, but that is a massive increase in space for you to use. And then you, of course, have the big boy, the Mark 3, that can make 6x6x12 blueprints. And it costs very expensive stuff. Time crystals, it's using a fused modular frames, it's using those neural processor thingies, and it's using the fixed trigons, which is, all of those are except for the fused frames, those are phase 5 materials. So, here's my tip for these. I would only use this, and I would make a creative world, and I would start designing and editing all of my blueprints there before I port them over into the save where I'm going to use them. Because you can always use all your blueprints. You just can't edit them in any other designer than the one that you have made them in. So, if it doesn't fit within that space and you can just place them in, it doesn't work. And that brings us to another question. How do you fix that? How do you move your blueprints around in folders and stuff? So on your computer, you open your normal Explorer, and you type in this, app data, and then you bracket it with parentheses, or percentage markers. It will open the app data folder on your computer. Then you go to local, to factory game, saved, save games, and then into blueprints. And then you will have a blueprint folder that is named after the save itself, where if you place blueprints in, you will then have access to them in your game. And the same thing for moving them over. You go into the ones where you have made them in the first place, and you just move them over from there, or if you download them from Satisfactory Calculator, or if you get mine, which will be available in my Discord, which you can find down in the description. So all of the blueprints that we are looking at today, all of this will be available if you go to my Google Drive, which is in my Discord, like the link in my Discord. So let's get into what all of them are, or rather, let's first look at a secondary thing like that people have been struggling with. It's how do you actually implement your modular blueprints? So when you're building modular blueprints, the easiest thing for you to do is place 2 blueprint designers next to each other and design all of the modules. Like, have as many as you need. Have 10, 20, I don't care. But how many modules you are in need of for the full build, that you're, like your modular build, that you're making blueprints for, you do it like this. And which means that when you're actually using them, it turns into this. So I can easily just go, hey, we are gonna place you down here, whoop, like so. And then I want the second part, I want this part to connect up to this, which is very simple now, because as you can see, the belts and the pipes are perfectly matched. So what I can do now, whoop, still perfectly matched, right? And if I press R and we go into the connection build mode that exists, and what we can now do is go and hold nudge and just move, and there's gonna be a point, boop, there we go, where it actually snaps correctly, and you have all of your belts and everything lined up there. And when you have this clicked once, it allows you to do this. You can move it around, and it's not going to change what that is. But because we have already planned everything in the blueprint designer, we can very easily just click, and everything gets built. No problem, no muss, no fuss. That's how you deal with the modular blueprint problems that a lot of people have been coming to me with in the comments. And then let's get into the actual blueprints. Here's the thing, if you like this kind of content, if you want more of it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share with as many people as possible on Reddit, on the Satisfactory Discord, with your friends, family, the neighbors, friends and their family, and like all of that kind of stuff. Share with everyone. And it will help me make more of this content. Our first thing we're looking at is a blueprint set that everyone should have, which is foundation, walkables, walls, and stairwells. And the reason for this is because we build a lot of them, but what we don't realize is that we kind of miss a big aspect of it, which is the time it takes to place down everything, even with soup. So what I tend to do is I make different platforms, I have different like walkables and stuff like that. And in this, what I have modeled that after is literally just the 6x6 foundations. All of this will be in Mark III blueprint designers, by the way, so if you want to edit them, they have to be edited in Mark III blueprint designers, and all the scale of everything is scaled thereafter, just to keep that in mind. Next blueprint we're looking at is factory floors, power logistics, and logistics floors. So what that means is that you have already pre-planned sections of the floor, prefabs for factories. That makes it a lot easier because you have a specific methodology. There's a certain amount of space between the like bottom and top of a logistics floor. Having like logistics wall, like how wide is the logistics walls and stuff like that. Having that already pre-planned, and you already know like that every time you place this down, you're gonna have this much space, that this is where you can build, where you can't build, where the power is located, and everything. Makes it a lot easier to smack down large factories very, very quickly, and that is a lifesaver, especially later on in the game. And of course, because you're making blueprints, there's a little detail here. You can actually look at this and notice that I put in a little bit of detail. And when you're making blueprints, there's no harm in putting in that extra bit of effort, putting in a little bit of detail, because you don't have to repeat it over and over again. It's already in the blueprint. So it's a one-time thing, and it makes it just a little bit nicer to look at. Complex logistics is our third one. And we're looking at specifically, in this case, a belt priority system that moves everything to the left. To the left, to the left. So what happens is, when you place this down, if we grab it from in here, right, is that I can keep placing these, like so, and have them moving everything continuously to the left. I just need to connect them up there, and then have inputs for everyone. So there, one belt goes in there, one belt goes in there, one there, and one there. And this would mean that if I have 4 belts with whatever amount on, as long as I know I can fill the leftmost belt, what happens is that you will then prioritize everything on all the belts to the left. So that's a complex logistics setup that takes time and effort and brain power to build over and over again. But if you set up your load balancers, your priority systems and everything, and not just the like horizontal ones. Remember, we were in 1.1, which is why I'm making this video. So we also have stuff like vertical logistics to take into account. So here is exactly the same mechanics, right? With the main difference being, now we are prioritizing to the left, but we are going up rather than like forwards. So this is a different way of doing it, but having these kinds of blueprints will significantly make things comfortable for you to be able to place down, oh no, I need to move things to the left so that I get full belts for this whatever. Then you can literally just go click, 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 I have them now, rather than having to build it every single time over and over and over again. Just be prepared that you might need a lot of variations on these kinds of systems. Here we are at bulk logistics. So when we build a bunch of belts, we need to move a bunch of stuff all over the place. So having stuff, like that's a Mark 1 belt bus that I've put out there, but having similar stuff for Mark 3, Mark 4, like all of them, is such a lifesaver in terms of time, because you can place down so many belts and create great highways for massive amounts of resources very, very quickly. And like I said, all of this is available in the drive, so it's just head on over if you want all of this. Then let's check out our next one. Something that is really important to have, and I've just made the horizontal versions of this, but there should be a space for the horizontal or vertical versions of this as well, where you have machine group templates. So you have all of them, you have all the machines, so you can make smelters. If you need smelters, you need to process a bunch of raw resources, boom, you have a smelter group. Here's 8 smelters, easy to plug in. If you have like 42 of them, that's a full Mark 6 belt. So easy to have. And like constructors, super great, because you need a bunch of constructors when you're building factories, regardless of what you're doing. Not select icon, that's not what I want to do. I want to load a different blueprint. And then like all the way up to manufacturers is what I have made here to demonstrate. But of course, all of what I've done that is going like right to left here, you can make go from bottom up or from up and down. So there's a vertical version of this that I definitely think you should have in your arsenal. And this is stuff that I will put in my own arsenal the second I get there in my new Let's Play that you can find. It's called the Minimalist Let's Play, and the goal is to have as few machines as possible and still be able to finish the game. Because I want to be able to put everything into like big machine blueprints. So you have phase 1 in one blueprint, phase 2 in one blueprint, phase 3 in like 1 or 2 blueprints, phase 4 in whatever, how many blueprints, but as few as possible and as compact as possible. That's the goal. So that's what we're doing. So head on over and check that out. So our 6th is the complex buildable and building techniques. So a lot of stuff is quite difficult to build, you spend a lot of time with it, and this is an example of a 45-degree angle curve or like corner, and the thing is that it can take a little bit to build some of this, and if you know how to do it, I've made videos on it before, and if you want to know more, if you want me to make more detailed guides on that, please ask in the comments and I will do my best to provide. But yeah, basically having blueprints for this is really, really good. So you can make your curves and place them in here, and you can have them modular as well. So this is a start, and then I can take the continuation of that curve, so it doesn't have like a straight section that I can then snap on using nudge and stuff like that. Is really, really, really good. And then I have my 45-degree angle, which I love putting in my factories to create more of a rounded shape, but still have it like have sharpness to it. Yes, let's get into our next one. The next one is lights and detailing. So as you can see, I have lights in here. These are signs that you put up, but I've also added a little bit of like a cage to them. And I have made a bunch of different versions of this. So you can see wall lights, where you can literally just place lights on the wall, and I have versions of that. Wall lights 2 is more of a like subtle, like down by the like walk by your knees kind of thing, and that also adds a little bit of light, and you can change the colors and all of this. But having all of that, and including like detailing, having all of the stuff that you need to make your place look and feel in a specific way, having blueprints that just adds a little bit of detail, such as what I did with the ceiling light number 2, those here, boop, you can see that these have a little bit of extra detail to them. There doesn't even need to be lights, but having a little bit of that can cut down the time it takes to put in good looking details into your build. Here you can see I have a ceiling light like this, where I have added the glass foundations in, but still get all of the light. So there's a bunch of stuff with that. Let's move on to our next one. So what we have here is major infrastructure templates. What I mean by that is this is like when we're moving resources across the world, This is how we collect and move them around to facilitate progression, especially in the later parts of the game, like phase 3 and forwards. So what I have here is a blueprint that has railways, so you can have the trains here. You also have conveyor belt mounts or conveyor poles here, so that you can move conveyor belts between these if you want to. You also have the pipeline wall support, so you can connect up pipes to the system. And you also have the power tower, so that you can move your power throughout the world. And that is also connected to all of these four, so that you can bring it out to more local power stuff nearby without needing like train stations or like even more power towers. Because they're kind of big, they're kind of bulky. So this is a way that you can do that. And because of the like auto connect thing that they put in with the blueprints, it means that you can very, very easily now connect up your railways between different blueprints. Just make sure that they're close enough that it works for if you want to move belts, because these can move 12 foundations. These can move like 7. So you can't have 12 foundations of space between them and also use the conveyor. You need to have like at most 7 between the start, like at this point. So from here, 7, and from there, 7. And then it'll work, right? Once again, this is available in the Discord in the Google Drive. So here's the next, and it's not so much as a cohesive set as more of a miscellaneous group. Repeating busy work, such as like, in this case, I've put in the setup of like smart splitter going into a sink, going into a storage, that you pretty much make it, like when you make a new thing for a new phase, then you need like, you're making smart plating for the first time, or you're making the industrial encased beams. You can very much just smack one of these down and connect it up, rather than having to go through setting up the settings, fixing like the belts and like all that kind of stuff. And this is like a relatively small one, but there are a lot of the stuff that you need to do throughout playing the game, and having it blueprinted means that it takes less time. So it's like anything that you're like, okay, I spent 20 minutes building this system or this design or whatever it is, but I can fit it into a blueprinter. Let's fit it into a blueprinter. Now we're at the last one, and this is the big effort one for people to build. Multi-stage production templates. So here's the thing. When you are building some of the late game, like mid to late game, you're building your heavy modular frames, you're building your computers and all that kind of stuff, what you kind of end up with is having to make the same parts over and over again. So what you can do is something like this. Now, this isn't compact, this is like incredibly spread out, but what you have is that you can just click once and then connect up a miner with 120 like iron ore, and you will get 10 reinforced iron plates, period. That's a very simple, very cheap thing to place down at that point. And it means that you can very easily expand on your production and make sure that you have all the parts that you need, even for more complex parts. So everything that you build and make in phase 1, phase 2, and some of the basic stuff in phase 3, such as like canisters or like packaging stations and all of that kind of stuff. Making multi-stage where you're like, okay, here raw resource goes in, computer comes out, or whatever it is. And making sure that you can place that in a single blueprint means that you will save yourself so much time. And I know that there's a category of this called one-click factories. And while I don't think that you can necessarily like fit everything and clear the entire game like this in a single click like that, I do think that we're reducing the amount of busy work for like repeating early game stuff over and over again. I think that this really helps. And as you can see, I've also implemented a lot of the vertical mechanics here to make sure that I gave myself the space to not feel like cramped doing this. I could probably have doubled all of this up and made like 20 per minute. Or if I wanted to, I could literally just at this point place in like 2 summer sloops there, 2 summer sloops there, and I'm getting 20 per minute instead. So there's adjustments to this, and as you can see, if we go in here, I'm also making sure that there is all of this extra information in the blueprint description to make sure that I don't mess up when I'm using it. Like, if I'm placing this down, do I actually have the cast screws? Do I actually have the Mark II logistics? And stuff like that. So I'm basically making sure, and like, do I have overclocking unlocked? Do I, like, all that stuff is in the description. And I place down these signs to make sure that I know what the numbers are on a visual level as well. And so a lot of effort especially for the more advanced stuff. It takes longer than pretty much any of the other blueprints, except maybe the detailing one. But it's definitely worth it because it saves you hours and hours and hours in the end. So, there we go. That's 10 different blueprint sets that you should have in your world in one way or another. Doesn't have to be these exact blueprints, but I hope that you feel inspired because that was my goal. Now, let's go and play Satisfactory. Head on over to the Discord. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, do all the good stuff to help me spread this video as far as I possibly can. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great one, everyone. Bye!